Hey everyone, welcome to episode 5. As this week we are discussing our formation group and our first meeting. Stephanie, I definitely think our formation group went well. We got started a little bit late because we had a straggler or two come on, but with it being the week after Christmas and the week of New Year's, I mean, we can't complain. But I guess what's your initial thoughts on how the whole first meeting went? And before we get into the nitty gritty of what we did, I guess just an overview of your thoughts and how you came out feeling.
Yeah, so I think that first meeting went about as well as you could hope. I was a little worried about people being nervous to speak up or not really grasping everything completely at first, but um, when we started asking for, what people thought of leadership, what it meant to them, the very first person to speak up was one of our student committee members. So I thought that was incredible that, of all the professionals that we have what, 6 professionals and then 2 students.
Yep.
That one of the students was the one that spoke up. So that was awesome in my eyes. And then, like I had figured, the students and the other committee members kind of brought their own interpretation, their own thoughts, their own perspectives into what leadership is. I mean, the very first thing that we did was just a quick exercise of what comes to mind when you think of the word leadership, and then what is the most overlooked aspect of being a leader, and just the thoughts that people had. Like the first one was, they thought, honesty came to mind when it came to leadership, and then authenticity. And those are 2 very important aspects of leadership that definitely aren't the first ones that come to my own mind. So I thought that was great that we had those different perspectives and additions to it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean the same thing. I mean, you said honesty and communication were the ones that came up, and those were both by our students. I think that's something that is definitely unique that we both like hearing, is hearing them speak up and not being afraid to. I think that's part of the reason why we chose the 2 of them. And just a reminder for those who might not have listened to our first podcast about formation group, it's the 2 of us, 2 student athletes, 1 male, 1 female. And then we have 2 coaches from the department, one who coaches a male sport, another one who coaches a female sport, and then 2 people from the academic side of campus who we want their input as well. So I thought it was sort of interesting how we didn't put everything together, but as we were going through introducing the different committee members, how we actually had 4 people in criminal justice or related offshoots. I just thought that was interesting. We also have our faculty representative, our FAR, Joe McCarthy Payne, who's a professor in the criminal justice department at AIC. And then we had both our student athletes were actually our criminal justice majors, and then our coach is a former police officer in the community. So I thought that was interesting, just hearing the different viewpoints that they had that I might not have during the conversation. Definitely made things interesting, just from the different point of view that I've never had.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I didn't realize that we had 4 criminal justice people on our committee either, but that's one of the majors here at
Yep.
AIC. So it makes sense.
Yep. So I guess one of the first things that we did after, like you said, you brought up that we talked about what leadership means to each of them and some of the values and things that go with it. But one of the things we really wanted to nail down in this first meeting was our mission statement, because we knew that while we came up with one that I think was a good starting point, which the one we came up with was, we strive to create a thought-provoking journey to address the different types of leaders and to impact personal and group communities through personal development and service. So I think that was a pretty good starting point for the 2 of us just coming up with it. We ran it past our AD, Jessica Chapin, just get her thoughts, and she agreed with that. And I guess Steph, will you talk us a little bit through, I guess, where we went, what we started with, and then at the same time, what we ended up with?
Sure. So, like you just said, the mission statement that we started with, that was just between you and I, um, it was absolutely a really great jumping off point to get everyone in the mindset of what a mission statement was about. I think at first to get people kind of comfortable with just revamping the whole thing or giving their honest opinions, we really just said, no, we're not beholden to this one at all. We want your input. We want to make this as best we can. So please don't hold back. So we kind of inched into it with just like some grammatical things here and there, with personal showing up twice really close together, the personal and group communities through personal development. Having that like double word just didn't flow as well. And then after that, that's when people really got into the nitty gritty of, okay, that doesn't sound right. Like the thought provoking journey, they changed to collaborative. Um, and they just started to really be honest about their thoughts on the mission statement and what they felt needed to be added in there. Like we didn't even have the word student athlete in our original mission, and that was something that they really felt was important, since this will be a student athlete leadership development academy. So having those outside eyes on our original mission statement was uh, vital to us creating this new one. After we spent a long time on this mission statement,
We
figuring
did.
it out, we went through probably like 7 different versions before we all landed on this one.
I think it was much more than that, because I remember copying and pasting into the chat and so everyone could see it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I completely agree with you with that. We had lots of different iterations of it, which I think was very important to see the progress that we made from one step to
Mhm.
the next to where we ended up being. And one of the things before you read the final mission statement that we came up with, I also thought it was interesting, the student athlete part. I think that's something that we sort of toyed around with when we were coming up with our mission statement, but we also wanted to make it, we didn't want to come into this meeting with a final mission statement. And I think there were some
Mhm.
things that we purposely left out, which I know some people would probably think would be weird, but we just wanted to foster that conversation, that student athlete part. If we're building a, a leadership development program for our student athletes, then 100% they need to be in.
Mhm.
I think that's something you and I touched base with a little bit. It was one of those, like, we didn't necessarily mean to put it in there, but at the same time, we didn't actively put it in there. I think that that
Right.
was an interesting conversation starter from that, which also helped the ball going. And then I also think that at the begin, or one of the things that changed, was our faculty rep asked, "What do we mean by the different styles of leadership,
Mhm.
or different types?" And I think that that really played into the final um, mission statement that we came up on.
Yeah, absolutely. So what
Um,
I think, like I said, like the bulk of our meeting was spent on this mission statement. So probably spent a good 30 minutes or so, I would say, just hashing this out.
Yeah, I completely agree. But the mission statement we ended on was, we strive to create a collaborative environment to introduce different leadership styles on and off the field. Our goal is to transform the lives of student athletes and the communities they represent through leadership development and service. So I'll go back and read the first one where we started. We strive to create a thought provoking journey to address the different types of leadership and to impact personal and group communities through personal development and service. And then the one we ended with was, we strive to create a collaborative environment to introduce different leadership styles on and off the field. Our goal is to transform the lives of student athletes and the communities they represent through leadership development and service. So I guess, Stephanie, from where we started to where we ended, was there anything that jumped out to you more so than that I just created, I guess, that aha moment, or something was like, you know what, that hit the nail on the head right there?
Um, I think that second sentence is what really drives it home for me. I think that one um, is what makes it so strong. The goal of transforming the lives of our student athletes so they can then transform the lives of their communities through gaining these leadership development skills and through community service. I think we've talked a lot about incorporating community service into this leadership development academy, and to put it out there in the mission statement as clearly as this mission statement says now. um, I think it's much stronger, and I think it's much more direct on what we are hoping to do.
Yeah, I agree with him, Matt. One of the things I liked was actually in the first sentence. So we started with, we strive to create a thought provoking journey. And then we actually tweaked that to, we strive to create a collaborative environment to introduce, which I
Mm-hmm.
think was a big difference. I think
Yes.
a thought provoking journey definitely makes it sound like it's a single person who's going through that. And we're just
Mm-hmm.
challenging them to do that. But I think using the words collaborative environment completely changes what we actually stand for and what the mission of the program is. Because in order for this to actually help others and for us to transform the lives of our student athletes, it has to be that collaborative environment. It's not just in a silo, each person themselves. It
Mm-hmm.
truly is everyone coming together, bringing those different viewpoints, those different backgrounds, anything different that they bring to the table is what we want to have them share with us, because it's a safe environment and we're collaborating together to help make each other better. So I think it's also interesting how you and I looked at the sentences a little bit differently.
Yeah.
You saw that the last one nails it on the head, nailed it home for you, to where I was thinking more of the environment aspect, and actually how we go back to facilitate it. But at the in the excuse me, at the end of the day, it all comes together and it's all one mission statement, which I think definitely hits home and will represent and help us plan this program even better moving forward.
Absolutely. Different perspectives make it stronger.
100%.
Yeah. So then next we focused on our vision for our leadership academy. So we started with three different vision
Yep.
statements. First one, creating leaders who empower themselves and others to meet the evolving challenges of the world around them. Second, to help our student athletes understand themselves and how to best interact with the people around them. And three, engage students in a program diverse in backgrounds, content, and ideas to promote well-rounded global thinking leaders. So what are your thoughts on these vision statements and how our conversation with the other committee members went with this?
This conversation, I mean, I think the mission statement took us probably around 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So I
Mhm.
don't know if it was fatigue by the time we got to the values, or if you and I just put together some actually decent values and went from
Look
there.
at
But
us.
the biggest thing that I think was her conversation piece was the order of how they came.
Mhm.
We only really changed one of them, and that was the second one that you read, and that was to help our student athletes understand themselves and how to best interact with people around them. And we actually changed that to help student athletes understand themselves and how to best interact with the people in their community. So I think that that was something that we changed, and I think that made it a whole lot stronger. And then the order that we went into with it was to help student athletes understand themselves and how to best interact with the people in their community. Number two was to engage students in a program diverse in backgrounds, content, and ideas to promote well rounded global thinking leaders. And then the third one was creating leaders who empower themselves and others to meet the evolving changes of the world around them. So I think one of the things that really made a lot more sense when we talked about it was the first thing we want to do with our value is we want to help our student athletes understand themselves better, because in order for
Mhm.
them to help anyone else, they have to understand who they are and how they interact with other people, which ultimately leads to the community. And then the second thing is, in order for us to I guess going from one to two is engage our students in a program diverse of backgrounds, content, and ideas. So, in order for our student athletes to get to that point, once again, they have to understand themselves and who they are. And then the last thing we want to do is create leaders who empower themselves and others to meet the evolving changes or challenges of the world around them. So, I think it's interesting that we sort of have a meet or a learn. Well, I guess you could, depending on how you do it, um, learn, helping others and other content, and then go. So just a couple of different steps. I don't, obviously that's something we haven't talked about much, but we could even simplify this into a simple, easy thing of this step 1, 2, and 3, while referring back to our values. Sort of like you hear some people to say crawl, walk, run, and that same type of thing. You have to do it in the right order. Otherwise, your final product's not going to be where you want it. So that's one of the things that we did with the values. And like I said, I don't know if it was the fatigue of the meeting, or if we just came up with some good values to start out with, but that part definitely lasted probably around 10 minutes if I had to think.
Mhm. Yeah, but I think it was really important because we presented those initial vision statements just in the order that we came up with them. I
Yep.
don't think we gave any thought to the order in which they needed to be presented.
Not at all.
So I'm really glad that Jill brought that up to reorder them because I think it flows nicely. It does give um, a timeline really of how these students will go through this leadership academy. So that simple thing of just reordering statements made a huge difference.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that clearly will help us set our steps for the actual curriculum that we're going to be learning here how to do in our next module with the NCAA law program. But I mean, that's one of the one of the things that we've even talked about using what type of model or theories we're going to use. And I think that this just gives us another step and something else to say, you know what, does what we want to do and what we need to be doing match up with how we have everything set up? I think that that's going to only help put the stepping stones in the chronological order or what we think makes the most sense, just to help our student athletes go through this process. So I'm definitely curious to see what the next steps are for us, and how we approach our needs-based assessment, which is our next meeting with our formation group, with the mission and visions that we have in mind that we came up in this first meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be our next meeting. Will I have a feeling it's going to be another long one to go delve into that needs-based assessment.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. That's something that you and I are actually going to hop off here once we're done and start talking about putting some ideas together for our meeting next week. For I think it's the week of January 11th. So we haven't set that one in stone yet. We're playing calendar, email, trying to figure out time for everyone to work out. So, but I know we're excited to see what comes next, and I hope you are as well. I think our formation group really is the best that it could be. I think
Absolutely.
given everything that's going on with COVID and with higher education and everything, I love our group. I think we have a really unique, different, or really unique set of backgrounds on our committee, and even some that we might not have known as much. Because I know one of our coaches, Shadlise, our softball coach, who's on the committee, she actually has a lot more. I guess experience in a actual school, high school, middle school setting than I realized. I knew that she had a little
Vice
bit, but
principal, right?
yeah, I know. So shout out to
I had no
Shalice there.
idea.
That's something that I don't think many people in our athletic department know, but they do now. So that definitely brings a whole different perspective that she has in terms of how these students might be coming from high schools and how we might be able to reach out to them early here at AIC and really get them on board with what we're doing.
Yeah, and she'll be even more vital in the curriculums steps, I'm sure.
100%. So, well, I guess any final thoughts you have, Stephanie, from our first formation group?
Just that I think we're off to a really good start. We started strong. Um, and like you said, this is the best possible group that I think we could have brought together to help us with this journey. And I'm excited to see what we do.
Awesome. So, wrapping up, I'm Thomas Poole,
Stephanie Jurasic.
and stay tuned for next week's episode as we have a special guest.